My daughter-in-law stood up in the middle of dinner, grabbed a pot of boiling soup, and dumped it all over my arm. I screamed, skin burning. And do you know what she said? "Stop being dramatic. You deserve this." And my son, he just sat there, silent, watching. The woman I welcomed into my family turned into a monster in front of my eyes, and the man I raised let it happen. I walked out, clutching my burned arm, and that night, I made a decision that would flip their perfect little world upside down. The next morning, I showed up at their door with an envelope that changed everything. So, before we continue, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you so much if you've already done it, and let me know in the comments which state or country you're watching from. So, now, let's continue our story. I never imagined a family dinner could feel like a battlefield. When Ryan invited me over, I thought it was just another quiet evening. I even brought a cake from the bakery he loved when he was little, hoping to see that smile I missed so much. Instead, the air felt heavy the moment I stepped in. Emily barely looked at me, just tossed a quick hi while scrolling on her phone. Ryan tried to sound cheerful, but his eyes kept darting to her like he was afraid of saying the wrong thing. We sat down and I tried to keep the mood light. "The cake is from that old bakery on Maine," I said softly, sliding the box toward them. Emily's eyes flicked up, cold as ice. "You really shouldn't spend on things you can't afford," she said. The words stung, but I swallowed it. I didn't want to start an argument. "It's just a little treat," I murmured. Ryan shifted in his seat, pretending to focus on his plate. I noticed his silence, and my chest tightened. Was this how it was going to be now? I tried to change the topic. "How's work been?" "Still busy with those new clients." That's when Emily slammed her spoon down. "Why do you always ask about work? You think you're helping by stressing us more." My jaw dropped. She cut me off, her voice sharp. "You know what really stresses us? Covering for you all the time." My stomach sank. "Covering for me? Emily, I've never asked for your help," she laughed bitterly. "Oh, come on. Who do you think pays when Ryan slips you money for bills or when you need something extra? We're drowning and you sit there like a queen." Ryan finally looked up, but instead of defending me, he just stared at his plate. My pulse raced, heat rising to my face. "Emily, that's not fair. I never ... And then it happened. She grabbed the pot from the center of the table and flung it toward me. Boiling soup splashed across my arm, searing my skin. I screamed before I could stop myself, pain coursing through me like fire. The bowl clattered to the floor, broth dripping down the chair, but all I could see was Emily's face twisted in a smug smile. "Stop being so dramatic," she sneered. "You deserve this, bitch." The room spun. My breath caught in my throat as Ryan finally stood, but he didn't rush to me. He didn't say a word. He just stared, frozen. My arm throbbed, blisters already forming, and my heart cracked wide open. I waited for him to speak, to defend me, to do anything, but nothing came, not a single word. I pushed my chair back, trembling, and walked to the door without looking back. Every step felt like I was carrying the weight of my entire life on my shoulders. My fingers shook as I gripped the handle, but I forced myself out into the cold night. The pain burned through my skin, but it wasn't half as deep as the ache in my chest. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just kept walking because if I turned around, I wasn't sure if I'd scream or break completely. By the time I reached my apartment, my arm was throbbing so badly, I could barely turn the key. I stumbled inside and dropped my purse on the floor. The moment the door shut, I broke. The tears came hard, ugly, uncontrollable. I ran to the sink, turned on the cold water, and shoved my arm under the stream. The pain was unbearable. My skin was red, blistered, angry. I whispered to myself, "Why? What did I do to deserve this?" My chest hurt worse than my arm. I thought of Ryan's face, frozen, silent, watching me suffer, and saying nothing. I raised him alone after his father died, worked double shifts so he could go to college, skipped meals so he wouldn't, and tonight he sat there and let her. God, I can still hear her voice. "You deserve this." I gripped the edge of the sink, shaking. My phone buzzed on the counter. I grabbed it with my good hand, praying it was Ryan calling to apologize, to beg me to come back, to tell me he defended me after I left. "Mom." His voice came through flat, careful. "Look, about tonight, ... I cut him off. "About tonight, Ryan." She threw boiling soup on me. "My arm is burned and you just sat there. He sighed. Emily didn't mean it. Okay, she's stressed. We've been dealing with a lot. Bills, work, everything. You shouldn't take it so personally. I couldn't breathe for a second. Not take it personally. Ryan, I'm sitting here burned and humiliated, and you're asking me to understand her. You were pushing her, he muttered. My heart stopped. Pushing her by asking about work. That's pushing her. There was a pause, then his voice turned cold. Maybe you should stop coming around so often. It makes things tense. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My son, my own son, telling me I was the problem. I swallowed hard, forcing the words out. Wow, after everything I've done for you, Ryan, after every sacrifice, this is what I get. Mom, please, he said softly, like he was already done with the conversation. I just need peace in my house. His house. Those words cut deeper than the burn on my skin. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. My phone slipped from my hand and clattered to the floor. I slid down next to it, wrapping my good arm around my knees. I sobbed until my throat burned and my eyes swelled shut. The silence after the tears was worse. It was heavy, suffocating. I looked around at my tiny apartment, peeling paint, old curtains, the same furniture I'd had for 20 years. This was all I had. No family, no one to call, nothing but pain and memories. For a second, I thought, maybe this is my life now. Maybe I just fade away quietly. But then, no, something stirred. Inside me, small at first, like an ember. I pressed a towel gently against my arm, wincing as the sting flared. Never again, I whispered to the empty room. Never again will I let them treat me like this. I woke up with my arm throbbing, the bandage stiff where the ointment had dried. Every move sent a sharp sting through my skin. But it wasn't the burn that hurt the most. It was the silence. No text, no call from Ryan to check on me. I dragged myself to the kitchen and reached for the coffee pot, wincing as the weight pulled at my injured arm. The phone buzzed just as I poured the first cup. Ryan, I thought finally. But when I looked, it was Emily. For a split second, I considered ignoring it, then I swiped to answer. Hello. My voice cracked from the long night. Her tone was flat, almost bored. Look, about last night. I held my breath, waiting for an apology. It never came. Don't make this a big deal, she continued. My grip on the phone tightened. A big deal, Emily. You burned me. Do you understand that? My arm? She cut me off with a laugh. God, you're still on that. Ryan and I talked, and honestly, we agree. We can't keep helping you anymore. We have our own life, our own bills. You get that, right? My stomach twisted. Helping me. I never asked for your help. Please, she scoffed. Who do you think covers you when Ryan slips you money? You act so innocent, but you've been draining us. My lips parted, but nothing came out. I thought of all the years I'd worked myself to exhaustion so Ryan could have a chance. The birthdays I skipped celebrating because I was on a night shift. The clothes I patched so he could have new ones. And here she was talking like I was some parasite. Emily, I said slowly, my voice shaking. You're living in a house you didn't buy, eating food I didn't ask for, and you have the nerve. She snapped back before I could finish. Oh, here we go, playing the victim again. Maybe try being grateful for once instead of acting like the world owes you. My throat burned. I whispered, grateful for what? For the scars on my arm. For your insults. She didn't answer that. She just muttered, whatever. Just don't call Ryan today. He's stressed enough. Then the line went dead. I stood there staring at the phone, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped it. My chest rose and fell in short bursts as if I couldn't get enough air. I sank into the nearest chair, clutching the edge until my knuckles turned white. That woman, that smug, entitled voice telling me I should be grateful when everything they have, every piece of comfort is because of me. For a long time, I sat there. The pain in my arm was nothing compared to the fire spreading inside me. Something shifted in that moment. Whatever guilt I had about walking out last night was gone, completely burned away, just like my skin. I glanced at the drawer by the wall, the one I hadn't opened in years. Slowly, I stood, ignoring the throbbing in my arm, and pulled it open. Dust rose as I slid out a thick, worn folder. My fingers traced the edge, and a smile tugged at my lips for the first time since last night. If Emily thought I was powerless, she was about to learn how wrong she was. I placed the folder on the table and slid my fingers across the worn edges before opening it. Inside were papers I hadn't looked at in years, deeds, receipts, documents with my name in bold print. I stared at the title deed for the house Ryan and Emily called theirs and felt something sharp rise in my chest, something that burned hotter than the soup she threw on me. That house wasn't theirs. It was mine. Every tile, every wall, every inch of it. I paid for it. I worked 20 years for that house. The long nights, the double shifts, the times I walked home in the dark because I couldn't afford gas. They were all for that roof, for Ryan's security. And when he married Emily, I thought I was doing the right thing by letting them stay there rent-free. I wanted them to have a good start. I never said a word about ownership because I didn't need to brag. I thought family didn't need contracts. But now, after everything, Emily acting like I'm some burden while she lounges in my living room, insulting me under my own roof, that thought made me laugh, sharp and bitter. I imagined her face when she realized the truth. My phone was still on the counter. Ryan's last words echoed in my head. I just need peace in my house. His house. I gripped the paper tighter. Not your house, Ryan, I whispered. Not hers either. Mine. I sat down and began sorting through the papers, pulling out everything I needed. The original deed, tax receipts, proof of ownership. My hands moved quickly now, fueled by something I hadn't felt in a long time, control. I stacked the papers neatly, my mind spinning with possibilities. I could call them, tell them right now, but no, that would be too easy for them, too quick. They'd talk over me, twist it, make me look crazy like they always do. No, this needed to be done the right way. Legal, clean, undeniable. My arm throbbed under the bandage as I reached for a pen. I didn't care. Pain didn't matter anymore. Humiliation didn't matter. They wanted me out of their lives. Fine. I'd give them exactly what they wanted, but not on their terms. Emily thought she could throw soup on me and walk away smiling. She thought I'd just disappear quietly. She had no idea the storm she just unleashed. I tucked the papers back into the folder and closed it with a satisfying snap. My reflection in the dark window caught my eye. I didn't look broken anymore. I looked like a woman with a plan. And by the time I sealed that envelope, I knew one thing for sure. Emily was about to regret every word that came out of her mouth. The folder sat in front of me like a loaded weapon, and for the first time in days, I felt steady. My arms still burned under the bandage, but I didn't care anymore. I pulled out a blank sheet of paper and stared at it for a long time, then opened my laptop and typed, "Notice to vacate." Each word gave me a strange calm, like I was stitching up a wound that had been open too long. As I wrote their names, I pictured Emily's face twisted in that smug little smile as she told me to be grateful. Not anymore. The law was on my side. And this time, no one could call me dramatic. I made sure every line was perfect. No loopholes, no mercy. 30 days to leave my house. My house. I read it twice, then 3 times, making sure there wasn't a single mistake they could use against me. The printer was spitting out the papers like judgment itself. When I held the document in my hands, I felt something shift inside me. Power. Not rage, not bitterness, power. I picked up the phone and called an old friend, Mark, who worked in real estate law. "Mark," I said when he answered, "I need a quick confirmation. If I own the property, I can legally evict them with 30 days' notice, right?" He chuckled. "Of course, you're the legal owner. They don't have a leg to stand on." "Good," I said softly. "That's all I needed." When I hung up, I set the papers aside and started folding laundry with my good arm, one shirt at a time. It was almost funny, doing something so ordinary while planning to uproot 2 lives, but that's how betrayal works. It hides in normal days, in casual dinners, in family smiles that mean nothing. I thought of Ryan, of the little boy who used to beg me for bedtime stories. And for a second, my chest ached so badly, I had to sit down. I whispered his name under my breath, hoping he'd hear me somehow. Then I remembered his voice on the phone. Cold, distant. "Maybe you should stop coming around so often." That was the moment I stopped feeling guilty. They wanted me gone, from their lives. Fine, but they were going first. I slid the notice into a crisp white envelope and wrote their names across the front in bold, deliberate strokes. I placed it in my purse and zipped it shut like sealing a promise. Tomorrow morning, I'd walk up their driveway and hand it to them, myself. And when Emily opened that envelope, when her smug little world started to crack, I'd be there to see it. I barely slept that night. The envelope sat on my nightstand like a ticking clock, daring me to follow through. When the sun came up, I dressed carefully, not fancy, not casual, just steady. I needed to look like a woman who meant business, not one begging for scraps. My arm ached as I slipped on my coat, but the pain almost felt like a badge now, a reminder of why I was doing this. By the time I pulled up in front of their house, my heart was pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I parked, grabbed the envelope, and walked up the driveway. Emily opened the door with that same fake sweetness plastered on her face. "Wow, you're up early," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "What? Here to apologize?" My lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "No," I said calmly, holding the envelope out. "This is for you." She took it, confusion flickering in her eyes. "What is this?" Her voice was sharp now, the sweetness gone. "Open it," I said simply. She tore it open, and as her eyes scanned the first line, the color drained from her face. "Notice to vacate." Her voice rose an octave. "Are you insane?" Ryan appeared behind her, still in his t-shirt, hair messy. "What's going on?" Emily shoved the paper at him. "She's kicking us out." He read it, and his face went pale. "Mom, what is this?" I kept my voice even. "It's exactly what it says. You have 30 days to move out of my house." Emily laughed, but it came out high-pitched and shaky. "Your house? That's hilarious. This is Ryan's inheritance." I tilted my head, locking eyes with her. "No, Emily, it never was. Check the name on that deed if you don't believe me." Ryan's eyes flicked to me, searching for some sign that this was a joke. "You own this place." I nodded slowly. "Every inch of it paid for with every sacrifice I ever made." Emily's face twisted, her voice turning shrill. "You can't do this to us. Where are we supposed to go? We have bills, responsibilities." "Not my problem," I said, my voice like steel now. 30 days, not a day more." Ryan stepped forward, his voice breaking. "Mom, please, let's talk about this." I cut him off with a raised hand. "Talk. Where was this concern when she burned me? When you stood there and said nothing? When you told me to stop coming round?" His mouth opened, but no words came out. Emily grabbed his arm, glaring at me like she could set me on fire with her eyes. "You're evil," she spat. "You'll regret this." I looked right at her, calm, unshaken. "No, Emily, you will." And before either of them could speak, I turned, walked down that driveway, and didn't look back. Their voices followed me, sharp and panicked. But I shut the car door and let the sound fade as I drove away. For the first time in days, I breathed, without feeling like I was drowning. They thought they had all the power. They were wrong. My phone started buzzing before I even reached home. At first, I ignored it, thinking it was Ryan or Emily trying to beg their way out. But when I saw the names flashing across the screen, my sister-in-law, my niece, even an old cousin I hadn't spoken to in years, I knew Emily had started a campaign. I let the first few calls go to voicemail, but when Aunt Marie called for the second time, I answered. "What is wrong with you?" she shouted before I could even say hello. "Throwing your own son out of his home. Are you out of your mind?" My throat tightened. "His home," I said slowly. "Marie, that house don't you start," she snapped. "Emily told us everything. You're bitter and trying to ruin their lives. You should be ashamed." I almost laughed at the word bitter. If they only knew, but I didn't explain. What would be the point? They'd already picked a side. I ended the call without another word and let the phone fall to the table. More messages poured in, some angry, some dripping with fake concern. Is this really necessary? He's your only son. Think of the baby. A baby. The word hit me like a slap. Was Emily pregnant? She hadn't said a word to me. My heart squeezed, but I pushed it down. I couldn't let that soften me now. Not after everything. I walked to the stove and started cooking just to keep my hands busy. Chopping onions, stirring the pan. It was something to ground me, to stop my thoughts from spinning. But even as I moved around the kitchen, the voices echoed in my head. Every insult, every accusation, every lie Emily had fed them. She wanted to paint me as a villain. Fine, let her. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need anyone anymore. As I sat down with my simple meal, the phone buzzed again. Ryan. For a moment, my chest tightened, hope clawing its way back up. Maybe he was calling to apologize. Maybe he finally understood. I picked up slowly. "Mom." His voice was low, almost broken. We need to talk. My hand froze around the fork. Something in his tone told me this wasn't going to be simple. Mom, please just don't hang up. His voice cracked through the speaker, and for a second, I froze, fork suspended in midair. I'm listening, I said, my tone flat. He hesitated, then exhaled slowly. Emily told me what you did. The eviction 30 days. Really? How could you do that to us? I closed my eyes, gripping the edge of the table. How could I, Ryan? She burned me. She humiliated me in front of you, and you sat there like a stranger. Silence, then a week. I didn't know what to do. The laugh that left my throat was bitter. You didn't know what to do when your wife threw boiling soup on your mother. You couldn't even say her name without choking, but you let her treat me like dirt. He didn't fight back this time. His voice softened instead. Mom, Emily's pregnant. The words hit harder than I expected. My hand trembled, and for a moment, my anger cracked. Pregnant. I whispered. And you thought the best way to raise that child was by standing behind a woman who attacks people. She's stressed, he said quickly. Guess what? You'll die alone, and nobody will care. My stomach clenched, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I picked up my phone from the table and held it up, camera already recording. Her eyes flickered. What are you doing? Making sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are, I said evenly. Every word you've said just now, it's all on record. For the first time since she barged in, she went silent, her jaw tightened, her chest rising and falling in quick bursts. Then she pointed a finger at me, her voice shaking. You think this makes you strong? You'll regret it. Get out, I said, my voice like steel. She hesitated for a beat, then spun on her heel and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. The room was quiet again, except for the sound of my breathing. I looked down at the phone in my hand, the video still playing. Every threat, every insult captured. I saved the file, set the phone down, and sat at the table with a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. Emily thought she could scare me into surrendering. She just made the biggest mistake of her life. I parked down the street so they wouldn't see me watching. A moving truck was already backed up to the driveway, and two men were carrying out boxes stacked so high they could barely see over them. My heart thudded in my chest as I sat there, gripping the steering wheel. This was it, the day they finally left my house. Emily appeared in the doorway first, barking orders like a queen without a throne. She was wearing oversized sunglasses, probably to hide the swollen eyes that makeup couldn't fix. Ryan followed behind her, head down, carrying a box that looked heavier than both of them combined. I couldn't hear their words, but I didn't need to. Their faces told me everything: rage, embarrassment, defeat. A tiny part of me wanted to get out of the car, walk up, and tell Ryan I never wanted it to come to this. Another part of me wanted to scream at both of them for turning me into a villain in my own son's life. Instead, I stayed silent. This was the choice they made when they let respect die at that dinner table. Emily glanced toward the street like she could sense me there, and for a moment her gaze swept across the car. I ducked slightly, though I don't know why. I wasn't hiding from her, not anymore. When the last piece of furniture went into the truck, Emily slammed the door so hard I imagined the glass rattling in the frame. She yanked Ryan toward the car, her lips moving fast as if spitting out every ounce of venom left in her. He didn't look at her, didn't look at me, just stared straight ahead, like a man already tired of the life he was in. When their car pulled out of the driveway, I waited until the street was empty before I drove up and parked in front of my house. My house. The key slid into the lock like it had been waiting for me. When I stepped inside, the silence hit me first. No laughter, no shouting, no voices, just emptiness. I walked through the room slowly. The living room was bare, except for a single piece of paper on the counter. My stomach clenched as I picked it up, thinking it might be a note. It wasn't a note, it was a sonogram photo. I stared at the grainy image, my hands shaking, and for a second the air left my lungs. A baby. They were really having a baby. I pressed my lips together, fighting the storm of emotions clawing inside me. I wanted to hate Emily more than I already did, but all I could see was Ryan's future in that picture. The child who'd never know me, the family I was about to lose forever. My knees nearly gave out, but I gripped the counter and stayed upright. This wasn't the ending I pictured, but it was the only one left for me. I sat at the kitchen table with the sonogram photo still in front of me, its edges curling slightly from where my hands had gripped it too tight. The silence in the house pressed down on me, thick and heavy, like the weight of every word I hadn't said. I pulled out a sheet of paper and uncapped a pen, my hand trembling for reasons I didn't want to admit. The first line came slowly. Ryan, I never wanted this. I stared at the words, feeling my throat tighten as tears blurred the page. You were my whole life, I whispered to no one, the sound breaking in the empty room. I wrote about the nights I worked through blisters and bone-deep exhaustion just so he could have shoes without holes. I wrote about the years of loneliness I endured because loving him was enough. And then I wrote about Emily, how I tried to welcome her, how I swallowed every insult, every cold glance for his sake. My tears fell harder when I wrote the words I never thought I'd say. I'm sorry it came to this. I'm sorry for you, for your child, for the family we'll never be now. I folded the letter slowly, pressing the creases with my palm like that could hold my broken heart together. I slid it into an envelope, sealed it, and held it for a long time. Part of me wanted to send it to let him see that beneath all this I was still his mother, but then I imagined Emily reading it over his shoulder, smirking, twisting my words into something ugly. That thought killed whatever hope I had left. I walked to the bedroom, opened the drawer where I keep old photographs, and tucked the letter inside. My fingers lingered on it for a moment before I whispered, "Goodbye, my son." Then I closed the drawer and stood there in the stillness, listening to the sound of my own breathing, wondering how a love that strong could end in silence. The house looked different now, brighter somehow, even with the bare walls and empty rooms. I stood in the center of the living room, paint roller in hand, watching the soft cream color spread over the dull gray Emily once insisted on. Every stroke felt like wiping away a stain. Every bucket of paint felt like erasing years of disrespect. My arm still carried the faint scar from the burn, but I didn't hide it anymore. It was my reminder, a warning not to give anyone that much power over me again. I dragged the ladder to the next wall, my phone buzzing on the counter. For a moment I stared at it, heart lurching like it always did. But it wasn't Ryan. It hadn't been Ryan in weeks. I set it back down and climbed the ladder, steady this time. No shaking hands, no tears. When the painting was done, I walked through the empty bedrooms, thinking of the couple who would move in next month. A kind family with 2 kids and a golden retriever. At least, that's what the application said. They'd pay their rent on time, say good morning when they saw me, and never throw soup in my face. I closed the last door and let out a long breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Later that evening, I sat at the kitchen table with a steaming cup of tea and my laptop open to a list of destinations: Greece, Italy, maybe even Japan. For the first time in my life, I could go wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted. No one to ask permission from, no one to tell me I was too much, too dramatic, too anything. Just me and the world I'd put on hold for decades. I booked a ticket to Santorini before I could second-guess myself and smiled. A real smile, not the kind you fake for family photos. The scar on my arm caught the light, and I traced it gently, not with bitterness, but with pride. I had survived betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak, and I was still standing, stronger than ever. I carried the sonogram photo to the drawer, where the letter still sat, untouched. For a moment, I stared at both, feeling that familiar ache rise again, then placed them side by side and closed the drawer softly. Some goodbyes don't come with words. They come with silence, with acceptance, with a door closing behind you for the last time. I grabbed my suitcase from the closet and set it by the door. Tomorrow, I'd start living for me. And for the first time in years, that thought didn't feel selfish. It felt like freedom. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.